All right, today we're going to talk about a topic that many of you might be scared of, but honestly, there is no reason to be fearful of the stock market. We're going to get into today why you need to be investing, why you have to invest, and all of the differences in the stock market, and why the risk that you think is associated with it is really not as scary as you might think. All right, so let's get into this here. Let's talk about the benefits of investing and why it makes sense to do it as opposed to not. So right here, if you have $20 per month that you set aside for 25 years, that's going to be $6,000. But let's say if you take that same amount of money and then earn that at a 10% interest rate over the same amount of times, that's $23,603 versus that $6,000. That's huge. So essentially by you not investing into the stock market and choosing not to do it, you're losing out on what would be almost $20,000 in gains versus what you would have at $6,000 if you just let it sit. So now what I want to do is take you into a software which will pretty much show the compounded interest rate over time. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in some numbers over here just to show you the relationship that you can have with these numbers. Okay, so now we are on the Nerd Wallet compound interest calculator. So right here, we're going to start off with the $25,000 right here. Let's just say you do nothing, then in 5 years, you're going to have $25,000 because you've done, obviously nothing. So let's just say you don't contribute anything, and this is a deposit that you're going to make, but you're not going to increase it. So let's just do estimated rate of return, 8%. So after 5 years, you're going to have $37,246 in there, which is still pretty good. But let's say you just contribute $100 every month to this. That is now $44,594. So that just shows how powerful the stock market and compound interest can be. So if you're not doing that, you need to go ahead and get on it. Keep in mind now, the average stock market return is about 10%. So that is the money that you are going to be losing out on if you choose to just store your money in a bank account. 10% over a long enough period of time will lead to fruitful gains. And on top of that, most stocks will pay a dividend payout. So most stocks will be able to give you dividends, which is essentially, a benefit for being a co-owner in the company, which is usually a quarterly payout of a certain percent. So if you get to a high enough value in your portfolio, you will be able to make a good amount off of dividends. For example, I make about $2,000 a year off of dividends with my account. I have about 100 grand in that account. So, compound that over time, you'll be able to make a good amount in dividends. So I want to talk about a little bit what banks do when they actually have your money when they are keeping it in. The banks invest your money. So you are, giving it to the bank. The bank is taking it and they are either, buying loans with it. They're putting it into treasuries, bonds, those kind of things, so they can make money off of you. Now, to me personally, that rubs me the wrong way and makes me want to not use them and put my money in something that is going to be doing the same thing that the banks are doing. So if you do decide to park it in like a high yield savings account, some of them now are even up to, 4% interest rate that you can get, which actually isn't terrible, but in comparison to the 8 to 10% rate that the stock market generally gives, it is still, less. Now, the stock market is definitely volatile right now, and that's probably what a lot of you are thinking. You're like, oh, I'm going to get negative returns if I put it in the stock market. Not true. You do have to dollar cost average, which essentially that means, repetitively investing over time. So that if that stock market does, dip down, you can buy the dip, and then you're at that flatline average again. And then when it does decide to come back and we get back into a bull market, then you're going to be way above the competition and probably even way more than a 10% return. But the risk of not investing over time is still much greater than the risk of investing over time. Because if you don't invest any of your money, you are not going to be able to live as comfortably, have the retirement that you want, and just the general day-to-day, life value that you could get if you put it in the stock market. So what I would do to get yourself rolling is I would go to a website like Vanguard or Charles Schwab, open up an individual brokerage account, and then I would look for an ETF that is just a large cap, which essentially means it, favors the larger companies in the United States. And I would buy that. That is going to be the easiest thing to do, either an ETF or an index fund. And then just go ahead and just see what happens. Just, make a small investment, like $100 or so, and then just look at what it does over time. And then you'll get more and more used to it and realize that it's really not so scary. All All right, if you watch this all the way through and you want to see how you can make more money by actually quitting your job, I have a video for you right over here. Check it out.